Hi, my name is Norman Poliquin. I represent Blackstone Valley Apiaries located in North Smithfield, Rhode Island. And I'm pleased to talk to you about pollinators today. It's a very important thing. You know, pollinators, there are over 4,000 species of bees in North America, and about 180 species documented in Rhode Island. That was taken in 2016. Pollinators decline, pollination goes. If pollination goes, mankind will follow. And that's very important. Now, pollination, before the Europeans came to this country, there were no honeybees in North America. When the Europeans got here, they claimed they used to have, especially in this part of New England, there was many American chestnut trees. And at a certain time of the year, there would be hundreds and hundreds of hummingbirds flying around from flower to flower. Now, if you see more than 2, 3, you run for a camera to take a picture. The question I have is, where did they go? And other species have disappeared. In 2016, the Monarch Butterfly was 85% extinct at that point. It's a migrating little insect that goes back to South America, and it can't make it home. It gets to certain agricultural areas, and then pesticides get them, and that is gone. Eventually, there will be no more monarchs. And that goes for many other pollinators. Going back, how did the honeybee get here into North America? At the beginning, there was no beekeepers nowhere in the world. This painting right here, Naples Honey Hunter. There used to be wild bees in the wild, and they used to risk their life to claim the honey. As time went by, the Egyptians and the Greeks came on the scene. This is a painting. It's a wall painting in a tomb in Egypt. And they show these people harvesting honey in clay pots. This painting is an actual painting that they found in a tomb, and it dates back to 1400 BC. So that, you know, they were on schedule and using their bees. Well, as time went by, the Europeans, as you well know, came and landed in the United States. They brought everything they needed. They brought cows, they brought some sheep, they brought some pigs, they brought some chickens, and different farm animals. So when they got here, they set up their homes, like in Plymouth, Massachusetts, for example. And when they were here for a very short time, the housewife turned around and said to her husband, "We're out of honey. We have no sweeteners." So they decided to send a message back to Europe. And when they got there, they took honeybees and put them in barrels and put them on a ship and brought them to this country. The bees were shipped from England to the new land and the colonies in Virginia in early 1622. One shipment was made to Massachusetts between 1630 and 1633, Connecticut in 1644. This is how the bees started getting here. Bees, as I talk, you'll see that they produce very fast. So they were moving around the country faster than the settlers were. In a very short time, there were honeybees in the wild all over North America. So this is one of the reasons that we have honeybees in this country. So the Egyptians, like I said, were the fathers of it. And as time went by and we got here, they used to keep in England, this is what they used to keep bees in. It's called the skep. The bees make a honeycomb inside of here, and they fill it up with honey and whatever the brood. And when the farmer would say, "I need some honey," they would either take a torch, put it underneath, smoke it. A lot of bees would die, or they'd soak it in water because there were so many. They just wash them out, and the bees and harvest the honey. That went on for many years. Well, Reverend Lansdorff the good reverend always studied bees, and he was looking at them, and one day he came up with an idea. He built himself a frame. This frame looked like this. There was nothing here. What he did, he took a piece of wild honeycomb and he fastened it in the middle. He put it in and he built a box, like similar to this one. And he put it in. Now the secret of of this frame, if I put two together, you'll notice there's a space right where my finger is. It's 3/8 of an inch, which allows bees to be able to work on each frame, passing each other without any problems. And you'll notice that the bees build this frame even. So now they got a place to put brood, and in the wild, in the apiary I should say, we're going to have a box like this, and then another box on top. Anything above this box belongs to the beekeeper. That's where the bees are going to store their honey, because they're overproducers. They will take all they need plus extra, and that's where the farmer or the beekeeper will get his honey, is from the overabundance of manufacturing. So now, other pollinators that were here well before, and now even as we speak are in danger. And this is one of them that we use still today, and this is a Bumble Bee Hive. They use bumblebees largely in greenhouses, because now try to picture a huge greenhouse and you've got 50, 60,000 honeybees flying around. It could be hard for the workers. But bumblebees, they're very, they're gentle. You can actually pick them up and they go back. Now, because of the way we're taking care of the earth, sand banks and stuff like that where the honeybee lives in the wild is being destroyed. So the honeybee is under stress also, real bad. So this is something we got to pay attention to. What does it look like in a hive? Now, to my left over here, you'll find there'll be 3 different bees in a hive. This one here, you'll notice, is longer than this one. This is a worker bee, and this one at the end with the big bulging eyes and the furry back, that's a drone. That's a boy bee. The queen is 1/3 larger than a worker. A queen is an ordinary bee. The difference is when the queen lays an egg and the bees figure out they need a new queen, they're going to feed that cell strictly royal jelly. By feeding it royal jelly, she will be born with the capability of having workers and lay eggs. An average queen can lay anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day. The worker bee, he's a nice guy, but in the same token, the only thing he does is wait if they need to have a father in a hive. He mates with the queen, and then he hangs around and they feed him, they take care of him. The sad thing, I feel bad for this young man, is in the fall, when the winter comes, the bees in this box will take all the drones, push it to the front door and say, "We fed you as gentlemen all summer long. We're not feeding you all winter." And they throw them out. And then they'll start again in the spring. Now, the queen, I'll show you 2 different frames. Let's see if I can pull one that's... Now you'll notice this here is a drawn frame. And you'll notice how the honeycomb is small. Now this one, which is not drawn yet, you'll notice they're larger. This frame would be used in manufacturing drones for people like ourselves that raise queen bees. We need drones to be the fathers of the colony. This is what we're going to have. So the queen can lay the eggs she wants. On this frame, she'll lay boy eggs. On this frame, she'll lay the worker bee, which is all females. Now, going back just for a second to pollination, I want to really say how important pollination is. For example, almonds, which is in California, of course, is 100% pollination necessary to have a crop. Apples, asparagus is 90%. Avocados, broccoli, blueberries, 90%. Onions, 90%. Cherries, 80%. Cucumbers, 80%. Celery, 60%. Prunes and plums, 65%. Watermelon, 65%. Tangerines and lemons. Tangerines, 45%. Lemons, 20%. Cotton, which we don't eat, is still 20% pollinating. Peanuts, 2%, and grapes is only 4%. 1/3 of all the food we eat is pollinated by an insect. So, you know, if you want to do a little project for yourselves, go see your parents and your grandparents and ask them, what's not here then when you were a child was here? Like, for example, in my case, the lunar moth used to be plentiful. I mean, it had a wingspan of 6 to 8 inches. You don't see them no more. A nice little bat working on a cactus plant. A very important little insect, insect eater. He's not only pollinating, but he's helping nature. When nature was involved, everything on earth had a purpose in it. Now we're trying to say what's important and what's not important, and yet we're going down real bad because the environment's in trouble and it needs our help. That's why the Native Americans used to call the earth Mother Earth, because she gives us life. Now everybody wants to help their mother. Ask yourselves, what can I do to help the earth? This is important. You know, the future is in the hands of young people. My generation, your grandparents and my grandparents created this mess we're living in. Your job is to clean it up. Going back to what happens in a hive, here's an example. This is the queen bee. She lays an egg. From 1 to day 3, they clean the cells and keep the brood warm. And then from day 3 to day 5, they feed the older larvae. From day 6 to day 11, they feed the young and larvae. From day 12 to 17, they produce wax, build comb, and transport food throughout the hive. From day 18 to 21, they guard the front entrance of the hive. From day 22 to day 45, they visit flowers, pollinate them, and collect pollen and nectar and propolis and water to bring back to the hive. And after that, the bee dies. But like I said earlier, remember, the queen is laying thousands of eggs, and they mature. Now, a queen bee to be born takes 16 days. The worker bee, from day 1 to day 21, It takes 21 days for the bees to be born. The drone, because he's got nothing to do, he takes 24 days for him to be born. This is what a bee looks like. It's got 6 legs. The back of it is called an abdomen. It's got legs, and they got little furry legs, and this is where it's called a basket, where they collect pollen and bring it back to the hive. It's got compound eyes on each side of the bee, and on top of its head, it's got 3 little dots, and those dots are small eyes. So when a bee goes out and forages for nectar or pollen, it comes out and another bee come back and it's got a load of good stuff and it says, oh, I found a tree a half a mile away. They get on the front porch. They do it inside, they do this dance. And this dance is going to tell them the directions of where the pollen and the nectar is. So now there might be 10, 20, 100 bees doing different dances. They want to get everybody to do their dance. So the one who dances the best wins the election, and everybody follows that bee and goes and to that tree and starts bringing in the pollen and the nectar. So they have communication. This one here is called the wiggle dance. I can't dance well, so I'm not going to show you. But this is how they do. They take off, they go in a circle type, and then when they get near the end, they start wiggling, and this is how they communicate. And there's another dance, it's called the round dance. Now this one here is if, let's say, it's less than 1,000 yards away from the hive, they do almost like a figure-8 dance. And this is another dance they do. Science is always finding out new things that the bees can communicate with. Just as an example, bees swarm. My job as a beekeeper, and all beekeepers, is when a box gets, we got to keep them room to always be able to lay eggs and store food. If it comes to the point that the box is full and there's no room to go, they're going to swarm on me. So now I got to prevent that. So I got to keep adding boxes. In Rhode Island, you get 65 pounds to 100 pounds of honey per box. In some parts of this country, they'll get up to 300 pounds in a box. That's a lot. So this is how it works. Now, there's many jobs in a hive, and this indicates like bees are always dying. There's a bunch of bees, their job is the undertaker. They take the dead bees out, bring them outside, and drop them. And then they got guards at the door. And I mentioned that earlier. So many days I got to guard the front of the hive because there's robbers that try to get in the hive from other colonies and say, gee, I'll steal this guy's and I won't have to work so hard. So the guards are watching them. And then here's a bee carrying water back to the hive. That's his job. They're carrying water back to feed the other bees. And then in the summertime, try to picture living in a box like this in the sun. It might get up to 100 degrees. Well, there's a bunch of bees. Their job is running air conditioning. And they fan the hive. What they do, a bunch of bees will get near the door, inside, all the way across on both sides, and they flap their wings, making circulation and pushing hot air out so they can keep the hive cool. And then there's a scout bee. That scout, if the hive is too packed, they'll go out and start looking for a new home. Or they're scouting for food, and they'll do it. So, but the scout here shows a swarm of bees, and his job is to find them a new home. Now, many bees are going out looking for a new home. They're all scouts, and they'll come back, and a whole bunch of them says, I found a place. Another one, I found a place. There goes a dance again. A different dance they'll do, and everybody's watching the dance, and everybody says, gee, I like her dance more than yours. I'll go with her. And all of a sudden, they voted again. They all agree, and they'll go to that area. So they have quite a society. So going back to pollination, organic gardening is very important. heirloom plants are very, very important. You know, backyard gardening is a very, very important thing. Here in New England, at one time, and I'm old enough to say it, that there was an apple orchard. You couldn't go 20 miles without finding 1 or 2 apple orchards. Where did they go? Farms were unbelievable in New England. Quality of food is dropping. For an example, there was an article that came out a short time ago where, for unknown reasons, they noticed in a zoo that monkeys and elephants had tooth decay, which was very unusual. So they did some testing and they found out that watermelons, the smaller variety, the round ones, that these animals love, because man had tampered with it so much, the sugar contents were so high, it was giving the animals tooth decay. Point I'm making, you are what you eat. Education is a very important thing. In the same token, it can be misinterpreted. It can work against us. You know, one of the things that I see that happens is environment talks is not taught too heavily in schools. Very important that you, as children, try to find a way, go to your library, ask about environmental books, learn about it, because this is your future we're talking about. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to hear from you someday. Thank you.